Okay, you on social media? Listen up. A BC man says he was fired from his job for complaining on social media about the holiday gift from his boss. Hussein Mahedli posted a photo of his holiday barbecue sauce saying, "What kind of multi-billion-dollar company gifts its Canadian employees barbecue sauce as a holiday gift?" Well, despite posting this tweet from his anonymous Twitter account, he was called in for a meeting and fired on the spot by his boss. So, now that you think about this, what are the rules for social media and your job? Let's get some insight here. Alex Lucifero, partner with Samfiru Tumarkin LLP, joining us. Good morning. Good to see you. Happy New Year.
Morning, Leslie. Happy New Year to you.
So he's not only fired on the spot, but also no compensation for it.
That's right.
What do you think?
It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate for the company that this is a very public display and a very public example of how not to handle this kind of situation. Leslie, I mean, an employer here should be taking a measured and reasonable approach to these kinds of situations.
What should they have done?
I mean, they should have verbally probably reprimanded this employee, maybe at most written reprimand, but instead it took basically the most drastic action that an employer could take in a situation like that, and that's terminate the employee for what we call just cause, or for cause, meaning that the employee is owed no notice of their termination, no severance pay whatsoever, and that, in my opinion, I feel very strongly about this, is the wrong move. The employer is going to owe the employee in a situation like this a significant amount of severance, and it could have handled this situation much, much better, Leslie, from a public relations point of view, to avoid this kind of press, but also from a legal point of view, because ultimately what the company did is illegal.
But what about the employee's responsibility here? I mean, he went on there and badmouthed his company, even though it was an anonymous one. So is there any onus on the employee? You often see, tweets are my own opinion. That doesn't get you off the hook.
Not necessarily. I would say in this specific case, I don't think what this gentleman tweeted rises to the level really to warrant serious punishment. I think if I was counseling an employer here, I would have advised them to, again, have a conversation with this employee, hear them out, and say, listen, we don't like this kind of press online. Please refrain from doing so in the future. You can insert these kinds of terms into a code of conduct or a social media policy as an employer. Oftentimes, social media language is included in code of conduct. That's how you handle a situation like this. But again, there has to be a system here of progressive discipline. You can't jump to the last step, which is terminations for cause. That's going to be illegal. The company should have taken a less drastic form of action if there was anything wrong done at all here, which I think is debatable. Obviously, this employee was voicing his concerns. Whether that warrants punishment or not, I think is still up for debate, actually.
Yeah, so code of conduct is key. So if you're an employee, check it out and see if your company has it. And if you're an employer, make sure you have one then.
Absolutely.
In both cases.
It's a must for an employer to let your employees know how they should be acting both in the workplace, but also representing the employer outside of the workplace.
Twitter is a nasty place. We know that. We just went through a federal election, and I can tell you, see a lot of people voicing and taking attacks based on their politics.
Yeah.
Is that spill over into the employers? Well, if I, for example, employ somebody and I don't like the way they're speaking about a candidate, maybe it goes against my political leanings if I'm an employer. Is there any concern there for either the employer or the employee?
There is. There's concerns on both ends, which is, again, an employee's off-duty conduct, especially when it's public, and Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, you name it, all those online public sites. You are talking to the public. You're speaking to the public.
But what if you're around the office with colleagues, or maybe at a function where there's other members of the public? They're also maybe they're even out there working for a candidate. Isn't it kind of the same? Like you're entitled to your off hours opinion?
The workplace is not necessarily just the building or the office that you work in. It could be anywhere. You could be on the road. You could be at home. And if an employee is seriously violating or breaching the employment relationship by taking actions that bring the employer into disrepute. And I'm not talking about the gentleman in this case, because I think that's that's negligible in terms of potential misconduct. We're talking about serious misconduct. Then that does warrant discipline, and the employer would potentially be allowed to discipline an employee in that situation.
So to the people who are watching, where would you draw the line? Where would you not go if you're going to do some social media? We love to do it on Facebook with our friends and family, but more and more we're getting opinionated on there. It's not just family photos.
Yeah, I think you have to be obviously careful about what you tweet and what you post and whatnot, and you have to think before you press send or press a post. And if you are concerned at all as an employee that what you are saying might bring your employer into disrepute, I think you've got to take a step back there and reconsider and perhaps not post.
Maybe check with them, because it's not, in this case, easier to apologize after in the fact.
Unfortunately, in this case, the damage
is
is done already. This
Right.
gentleman's lost his job, right? And he is going to be owed severance, that's for sure. Severance only goes so far. It's not necessarily your job back.
This is not a unique case. You get a lot of these.
We handle these kinds of situations, Leslie, unfortunately, every single day. Again, employers take this step all too easy, and both parties are punished for it. They end up having to pay severance as an employer, and the employee has to go out there and find a new job.